So how much you got?
Okay, Jen, we've got 2 cups of self-rising flour in that large bowl there. We're going to use fat-free buttermilk, which works just as good as a standard buttermilk. And we have got 2/3 of a cup of buttermilk. We have 4 tablespoons, right about here, of the Crisco shortening. You use the stick kind, so that'll be really easy to measure. In this little bowl we have a 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of half a teaspoon of baking powder. And then we have
a little more kick.
Yeah, that'll make them fluff up just a little bit better. And then we have on our cutting board a one of these flexible cutting boards for putting stuff in a skillet. We use it to keep the junk out of the wood cutting board, and some extra self-rising flour for the keep it from sticking to the pan or the plastic. And then over here we have our baking sheet, our little cutter, and this was my dad's actually. It's a wire whisk baking, and David enjoys doing the same with that there fork.
Yeah,
so
the other pastry cutter works better.
Yeah, the pastry cutter works really well
quicker
for mixing the shortening into the flour, which is where David's going to start after we've turned over our biscuit. Okay, so he's adding the the salt.
If you add no sugar.
And the shortening and the baking powder.
All the dry ingredients.
And we're gonna
the Crisco mix.
Yep. And then the Crisco gets worked into it until it's little crumbly things.
Like gravel.
Yep. And if you're using Lisa's favorite flour, of course you won't need that step.
Yep, there it went on the floor.
Yeah, David had some sympathy for you because he's quite messy when he's making biscuits too, and you'll probably see that shortly. So,
but the fork works just as good.
The fork works just as good. It's just, yeah, this is a little easier to control in most cases. But you just want to distribute the shortening through the flour as evenly as you can, and then that'll make you have good flaky biscuits. He also explained to me earlier that the buttermilk is as much a feel as it is a specific amount. Some flours are ground more finely and will take a little more liquid to get them to the point where you're able to another what, David?
Mixing fork or spoon, either one. Just roll it around. I may have to make more. That didn't look like enough. This is a real fine flour. Yeah, it's going to take more. Matter of fact, it may be about that much more again. See the consistency? It's still too dry. Right there. See, it's not binding. The ideal thing is like Play-Doh.
Oh, okay. That's a good point. Good reference point.
And how much? You said there was 2/3?
There was 2/3. Try another third.
Okay.
I've been real happy with the results of baking with fat-free buttermilk, Jen. I know you'll like that. Easily found at the ShopRite. I know they carry it at ShopRite all the time. I'm sure they have it at the Ingalls or at the...
That's getting really close. See how it's sticking together?
Mm-hmm.
If you were rolling it out, making hand biscuits, that right there would be perfect. I'm going to add another third, so it'd be 1 1/3, right?
Yep.
I like it a little wetter.
Okay, now it just sounds sloppy in the bowl.
Yep. Now it will stick to your fingers like glue. A little more paste in there and you could hang posters with it. Wallpaper. But you see, it's making a nice ball. You see the ball?
Sticking to itself, okay.
Okay. And this is very important when you go to work it. So it won't stick to your fingers.
That is some really fine.
It is. That's why it took so much milk.
Very fine.
I remember it
flour.
taking 3/4 to 1 cup. And
Yeah.
this is 1 1/3 with this flour.
And this was just a cheap old Walmart self-rising flour.
I always, when I was little, was Martha White. Crisco.
Yes,
is the best.
Crisco's imperative, we have found.
Just get it under the flour so it don't stick. Turn it over. See how the flour's on it now?
It's pretty well covered. David doesn't spend a lot of time kneading it, which is fine. The more you knead it, if you knead it just right, you get a nice tall biscuit. If you knead it too much, you get a hockey puck that's tough as can be,
But flaky.
but relatively flaky.
It's more greasy in your mouth instead of being a bread. And Carol's little biscuit cutter.
And those are about how thick? 1/2 inch?
1/2 inch to 3/4. You see.
There we are. And
Put
then
them right there.
line them up. We've also found that the air bake pans don't do quite as well as
Could make about
the
6
standard.
biscuits. See,
The
putting these back
standard.
together, the dough.
You wad it all back up.
Right, Play-Doh. Consistency of Play-Doh, if you see. That biscuit there will break up though when you go to bust it in half.
Those are best worked with gravy.
And then the last one is just
We always refer to the last one as the monster biscuit because it could go any direction.
it looks like a monster's head instead of a cat head.
There we are. Now we're going to put them in a 425 degree oven
That's Talon's for 16 minutes.
for 16 minutes at 425 degrees.
If you was real hungry, they'd make gravy.
Oh, well, now there you go. Anyway, we hope that helped, Jen, and enjoy a biscuit. Bye now.